isatuximab is a CD38 monoclonal antibody. It's an immunotherapy. It's what we call a naive first-generation immunotherapy, and it belongs to the family of the CD38 immunotherapy that have shown to be, that demonstrated being extremely active, very safe, and now the backbone of all of the regimens we use in myeloma, up front or in the early relapse setting. Right now, isatuximab is an IV drug. And so, of course, now that we know isatuximab is very effective, the idea is really to make it much better for the patients and for the team that treats the patients. And the best way to make things better when you have an IV drug is to turn it into a subcutaneous formulation-based drug. The thing is that with the experience of daratumumab, which is a great CD38 monoclonal, and that is used subcutaneously, but with a manual push, we understood that the CD38 monoclonal antibody are a bit thick, and it's difficult to push. It can be difficult for the patient, it can be difficult for the nurse. And we know that we give CD38 monoclonal antibody for years, so we really have to simplify the process. And so Sanofi, they were coming in a second position, and they knew of the experience with daratumumab. So they have been thinking of a better way to administer the subcutaneous formulation of isatuximab. So we use a little device that we call an OBI. It's an on-body delivery system, which names is an on-body injector, Infuse. And all you have to do is that you have the vial, you plug it on your Infuse OBI, it fills in the cavity of the device, you stick the device to your skin, you push the button, and it's entirely automated thereafter. There is a very tiny needle that you don't see initially that gets in your skin very smoothly. Inject the product, retract, no sharp injury, totally individualized, reliable, automated. And so the thing is that to make that new paradigm shift, groundbreaking sub-Q formulation with the OBI so much better than a manual push, Sanofi needed a registrational study. They need an approval. And so the registrational study is IRAKLIA. IRAKLIA is a phase 3, international, multi-center, non-inferiority registrational study to demonstrate that isatuximab subcutaneous with this new genius OBI formulation is equal, non-inferior to the IV formulation of isatuximab. So they picked one regimen, ISA-PD, isatuximab, pomalidomide, dexamethasone, and they compare the same regimen, ISA-PD to ISA-PD, but one is ISA sub-Q OBI, the other one is ISA IV. And so IRAKLIA is a positive study. So the subcutaneous version is non-inferior to the IV version. To demonstrate that you're non-inferior, you need to look at a couple of things. Number one, efficacy. For the patients, what's most important is that, okay, the formulation becomes more interesting, safer, simpler, more convenient, less painful, lovely. But you need the efficacy to be the same, right? So the first primary endpoint was efficacy, and it was non-inferior. The second primary endpoint, which is more an pharmacy, pharmacokinetic thing, FDA requirement, was to look at the sub-Q formulation is not like IV. When you IV a formulation, you have a peak, and then it decreases. And the more the peak, the more the concentration stays in the body of the patient. The sub-Q is totally different. The sub-Q, it's a slow, progressive, constant release of the drug from your interstitial tissue to your serum. And so it's different. And so you have to demonstrate that and that's an FDA requirement, at the what we call the steady state situation, right before you start cycle 6, right before you start 6 months time treatment, you had been treated for 6 months. They want to know the residual of the isatuximab IV versus subQ. And it's called the C-trough. And they demonstrate it's non-inferior. That's why the study is positive. Then you have to look at the quality of life. You have to look at deep responses. You have to look at systemic infusion reaction. This is something that is very initial and very important with IV formulation. All these secondary endpoints were part of the study as well, requests from FDA and agencies worldwide. And I'm just gonna stop on the quality of life because for the patients, I think in the end, this is what's most important, right? The quality of life was very interesting. So not only, of course, globally, the patients loved the subQ versus the IV, but the percentage of patients very satisfied with the subQ was really great. So in parallel to IRAKLIA, Sanofi has launched ISALCO. ISALCO was not presented as an oral, but ISALCO was presented at ASCO and EHA 2025 as a poster. What is ISALCO? The problem of Sanofi is that they could have developed isatuximab subQ manual push. And so it was interesting to compare isatuximab subQ with a device versus isatuximab subQ manual push. ISALCO is that study. Each patient had 3 months of one, then 3 months of the other. And the satisfaction of the patient was really in favor of the OBI compared to the manual push. So now we can say that not only isatuximab subQ is with the device much better than the IV. It's good to know. It's a bit obvious, but it's good to know. But it's also much better than the manual push. And this is great because as a physician, we have developed drugs for years and we have switched gear from drugs IV to drugs subQ for years. But I have to be honest, I've never thought we would be able to improve on the subQ formulation, to find a new genius way to provide the subQ formulation to patients safer, painless, faster, quicker, everything is much better, less stressful, and maybe even cherry on the cake, maybe highly feasible at home for many injections. So IRAKLIA is really allowing us to get access to this new formulation, which probably is a change the life of the physicians and nurse and the patients and the families.